we were waiting until I turned 18 to accept the check, so that way I could sign legally and all this stuff. Like I can own ownership in the company. And Josh texted me on my 18th birthday at like 2 a.m. I was like, "Can we close on this now?" Like.
Wait, Vishal, did you see the Elon Musk?
I'm watching it right now.
Actually?
I'm literally watching it right now.
Let that sink in. You know what we're talking about?
Yes, I do.
Dude.
It's fucking hilarious.
So he carried that up to like HQ?
There's no way he brought that himself.
Where is HQ? Is that here?
It's right there.
It's
How
right
far
here.
is it? 2 miles, 3 miles?
No, I saw that was the first thing I saw when I woke up. I was like, okay, today's gonna be a good day.
Oh, and his Twitter bio is now Chief Twit.
Chief Twit?
Yeah.
That's hella
Tag
funny.
Twitter HQ as a location.
People hate it and people love it. Apparently he's like laying off half their staff or 75% of their...
75.
That's crazy.
But he said that. You actually think he's going to do it?
We'll see.
Would that turn the stock into turmoil?
Doesn't he want to take it private so that it's like properly decentralized and
It's
not
a
like...
lot of things he wants to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah. But nice shades, man. So for those of you who don't know why we're wearing shades, I got a bit of a concussion last week, and so these lights are very bright. You can't see it on camera, but if I did not wear these, I would have a headache 5 minutes in. I didn't leave you out though, so I brought you something.
Oh, amazing.
Here you go.
Now we all have concussions.
I guess I'm not alone.
That's what we can say.
Yes.
Right?
Welcome to the podcast, man. This has been a long time coming.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So, the first thing is nice merch. I've been seeing it around campus.
Yeah?
So my roommate Ali from my first year, he texts me randomly. He's like, "I just saw someone wearing an Otto shirt on campus. I just saw that they're like, what was it? You guys sponsored a hackathon in SF."
CalHacks, yeah.
So what are you thinking with the merch? Is it like actually a distribution play?
Partly, if I wanted to sound smart, that's what I would say.
Okay.
And I like to sound smart. So yeah, it is definitely a distribution play somewhat. Partly I give them to my friends.
Okay.
Partly I give them to people who I know. You know, for example, Corey came to our school the other day. So I gave him one, and he's sitting up in front of all the startup kids at Berkeley, and he's wearing my merch that I'm also wearing. So all of a sudden, whenever I wear that around campus and you went to his event, you're going to approach me and ask, "Hey, yo, why was Corey wearing the same thing as you?" And it's actually proved quite lucrative for just kind of sourcing candidates and that kind of thing. I mean, it's one thing to work at a company that does a great job, but then having great merch on top of that everyone wants and you're seeing around, it does kind of go a long way. So definitely a mix of two things.
You know,
I like that. Great job and great merch.
Appreciate it.
What else do you need?
What else do you need for a company to work?
Do you need a salary? No.
No, just
Right?
Just the merch.
Yes.
So I want to talk a lot about recruiting actually, because that's something we've actually talked a lot about in terms of recruiting for a younger startup. But even before that, you're in your first semester at Berkeley right now.
Yes, correct.
Last semester at Berkeley also.
Correct.
Why?
Okay, yeah, so I get this question a lot. Why did you go to Berkeley? Number one, you have a company. You know, why would you even? A lot of kids drop out when they get to your age. Like, why would you even go? So it's for two reasons. First, I think personally, I wanted to experience college for a bit. I also obviously didn't want to. If any investors are watching, look, I'm taking two courses, but taking an intro to CS course and an interest course on psychedelics, actually. So it's nothing
Wait. Hold on.
Oh,
Intro to psychedelics?
Intro to CS and a psychedelics course. Those are my two courses.
Explain the psychedelics one.
It's very interesting. It's called Drugs in the Brain, College of Chemistry. Basically just talk about obviously kind of how different drugs like, psychedelics and marijuana and all these different, kind of opioids have penetrated society.
Huh.
And of course you get more into the medical side of things, like how they affect your brain and all those different things. But I find it pretty interesting, obviously, just
Okay.
learning more stuff. And that doesn't really take my attention away from running the company. I basically do all my, work or my school work on Sunday for a few hours and run the company the rest of the week. But it's also proved, and I think more importantly, the biggest reason for going in was more on the recruiting side.
Right.
Where you're a young startup, you obviously are fighting a million fires at the same time, and recruiting is for the CEO typically one of the biggest issues. So by going to campus, by interacting, meeting smart people, working my way around, every time I meet someone, I say, who else do you know that you think I should meet? And that always basically has led to, number one, you walking outside and not seeing someone wearing an Otto sweatshirt the first 5 feet. But then also me getting literally resumes handed to me as I'm sitting in a cafe and working. So I think it's been a great experience. I don't want to prolong it. I want to put the focus back to the company. So first, but also last.
Awesome. And your co-founder Arnav, he's at Stanford right now.
That is correct. He's doing a very similar route and absolutely killing it over there in Palo Alto.
Is there auto merch just running around Stanford also?
Yeah, there is. And it's really awkward when you meet a Stanford kid in one and a Berkeley kid in one. And, they're like the loss of identity.
Has there been any great approaches in terms of people either giving you a resume or just pitching themselves?
I think so. When we went, we've done a few like startup events at Berkeley as well, in addition to Cal Hacks. And I think every time I get handed a resume, it's kind of a shock because I don't have a resume. Like I've never made one. Actually, I did make one that was like 3 lines, and it was just
great personal website too.
Yeah. Oh, like So I'm number one. I'm shocked. I'm like I don't know how to read this thing. But secondly, like it's like I really I identify more with when people send those like more personalized emails and they talk more about their experience, because I think that's what we really value in the people that we hire and the people that we work with. I think I've seen a few outstanding emails that have been sent to me telling me I actually had this 15-year-old girl, I think, who found us on I think LinkedIn or something like that, and she's like, I've made TikToks. Here's my TikTok account. I built like these projects, and of course, 15, you can only expect so much. But I said, look, like we don't have any open roles right now, but let's stay in touch because I'm always willing to keep the door open for people with that kind of tenacity and how far they're willing to go with looking for a role.
So if I tomorrow decide that I want to work at Otto, I'm a CS, let's say I'm just like your typical freshman in college. Okay, I have some experience doing some type of like dev work. What does the ideal look like? How should I craft it so that number one, you see it? Like, what's a good subject header? And then number 2, what should I have in the email to like prove myself?
Yeah, I think. Well, the semantics in the subject header, like that isn't too big a deal of me as long as you don't put, something that is going to just be sent to my spam. I read pretty much every email that comes through my inbox. When it comes to the actual content, look, a lot of, and this is what I see, freshmen at Berkeley, like, you learn a very specific kind of programming in college. And that programming is rarely ever applicable to what we actually build inside the company. So even if you don't have any experience, I think the best way to go about it is saying, hey, I'm studying at Berkeley. Getting into Berkeley shows me one thing is like, you can put in the work to get the results. But secondly, say something like, hey, I have been picking up programming, but I am willing, just tell me what your tech stack is. And over the next few months, I'm going to learn it and I'm going to build a few projects with it. And in February, I'm going to send you 3 projects I built with, TypeScript. And when I want you to look at those, and I want a summer role if you think those, make sense. And during the summer, I want to do X, Y, and Z at your company. I think you can improve these 3 things. That's, the step further. Because, obviously as a freshman, the first thing you're fighting is experience and having none of it. So just putting yourself out there and saying, hey, I will do anything it takes to get a role at your company. It does mean a lot, especially for a smaller one like ours.
And then on the flip side of that, since you've had some success recruiting, if I'm a bigger company, let's say seed stage, maybe Series A, what's the best way to go about recruiting like top tier talent from a school? How can I steal the kids from like their FANG internships?
Yeah, that's actually a difficult question because it's also a struggle for us in that sense. I think the idea here being that, do you really want to steal the kid that's going to do the FANG internship?
Ooh, okay.
Look, everyone has their interests, and I believe that by 18, what you're gonna, obviously, sure, you can explore and that kind of thing, but people who are getting FANG internships, juniors, seniors, that kind of thing, then I assume, they've interned at larger companies that before. We have like this weird culture where it's just honestly down to the person. Like, you just look for extraordinary people. When we first started as a company, I didn't do jack shit, neither did my co-founder, and our engineers were still in the very basic kind of stages of their development journey. But just, they would put in the work. Like that's the only thing. They would realize, hey, if anyone can code, right? That's the big concept these days, that I can just go out there. It's very basic stuff, and it translates, very well once you know the kind of initial knowledge. So yeah, I mean, I guess the answer, going back to the original question, is I don't know if I would necessarily want to steal the kids doing FANG internships because they see themselves in a very different track. It's not like you can jump into FANG knowing that, oh my God, I didn't realize that I wasn't actually going to do anything, or I wasn't going to, work on as impactful stuff as startups. Those people have already made their decision, and I'd rather look for people who are doing extraordinary things at early stage companies.
It's interesting, especially we both grew up in the Bay Area. There's like this concept of like people, especially in high school, you're like playing the game. You're playing like the right extracurriculars, you got the right, you're starting a club in high school, or you're doing all that. And when you get to college, it's the same thing, except at a bigger scale. Now you're trying to get internships. You're taking the harder classes because it helps you declare your major, or whatever the case is. Did you find yourself playing that game in high school?
I think everyone plays the game involuntarily, whether or not, you want to. Because if you, it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't just do anything, if you don't participate in this game, the game being, doing the extracurriculars, doing that kind of thing, then you've literally accomplished nothing, right? So even if you don't want to actively do it, you're just gonna somehow get coerced into. It's just the culture in Bay Area schools. I don't know if I'm making complete sense there. It's just one of those things you have to really experience it to kind of understand it. But more along the lines of like myself, I think I certainly did. Like I did, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, I have some knowledge that all the other kids don't. Because I was just a normal high school kid. Still feel like a normal college student, and going through the entire cycle of when I first started at high school, I joined the freshman, robotics team. I was like in the business club or something like that. Obviously, if I had stayed with those things and not started the company, then I would have got to become like the president, vice president, and so on. I think that I actually met my co-founder in the robotics club at school.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, I did. And we worked on projects together in the robotics club. And I certainly think that both of us had joined it. Obviously we loved robotics, but we were on the business team. So we weren't actually like doing, at least towards my sophomore year, actual work on the robot. And I guess that initial idea of like participating in the game ended up kind of leading to a longer, relationship, and then going on and building a company together. So yeah, I always get sidetracked by the question, but I think I definitely did participate, but it did lead to something bigger.
No, that makes sense. And then how do you stop playing the game? Because there's no way, or do you think you can build a startup in high school or college while also being in 3 different consulting clubs and doing like a full course load and applying for internships full time? Can you actually do it?
No, I don't think you can build a serious startup, or because you're asking, can I do 2 things that both basically conflict each other at the same time and do good at both of them? Like you cannot, swim while you walk, right?
Yeah.
That just does not work. So if you're serious about building a startup, like this is kind of where especially in high school and college, the biggest decision for people and the biggest signal you can give to your commitment to running a startup is, by dropping out or leaving school. Because that's when it's just a big focus thing. And put simply, no, you can't do both. And that's kind of where the cookie ends up crumbling is by leaving school or continuing with your education to continue participating in the game.
Yeah, what's interesting? I don't know if I've told you this, but the way we actually know each other is it's been a while. So what was it? I think it was December 2020.
Sorry.
Okay, so I was on my gap year and I was like going full time into the whole filmmaking, like marketing agency thing. And I get a DM from someone, I don't remember who.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, I get a DM from someone saying, hey, there's this company, they want to do XYZ, a Kickstarter, like a launch video. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Like they're in the area. I think we had mutual friends. And so I go and we start talking. At this time, their app is still built on Flutter, right? Like it's still a very it's a badly designed app. Like now it's great, but back then it was I'm honest, right?
I designed the initial app, so it was very good.
You're a bad designer. No, I'm kidding.
Like I'm solely responsible.
No, I think I don't design anymore. Yeah.
But I remember it was like we went to Pete's Coffee like a week after, and you came in and you had 0 to 1.
Yes, that's
right? That book keeps coming up on every episode.
No, wait,
he had the book with
was
him?
it 0 to 1 or was it range?
It was 0 to 1.
0 to 1? Oh, okay. Maybe it was, yeah.
I don't remember. I think it was 0 to 1 because I remember you then pitched me on the book and I was like, that sounds dumb.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, okay.
Maybe, possibly. But this was in Los Altos, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
the Pete's Coffee.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I remember at that point, I still I had this inkling that I wanted to get into startups. That's when I was working on the social app, by the way.
Yeah.
And you had just started Otto. And then to see you go from that to, I guess, the person or like the founder you kind of are now, it's a very interesting thing to watch. And so my question is, how did you actually get to this person? Was it through failing? Obviously it was, but was it also through reading books, or was it the friends you had, or was it like a YouTube channel that you binge watched? What was it actually?
I think it's I don't know. I don't know how to define it down to a single thing, but it's definitely the experiences that come with it, right? Because I know when we first met, working on this Kickstarter campaign, raised 10 grand. And then today, I'm sitting on your podcast. Congrats, by the way, on this.
Thank you.
It's a really nice venue. And talking about, the company that, 2 years ago or whatever, that we were, first met over. I think it's honestly, it's going to sound cliche, but it's just like always pushing, the barrier forward, or, pushing the ceiling higher, where the biggest problem I see with young founders is they get caught up in the news media, like the articles, the publications, the TechCrunch, and they get that validation and they go, okay, I've hit my ceiling. Like this is my local maximum in a sense. And they kind of treat that local maximum as their absolute maximum, and they're like, okay, I'm done here. I got the TechCrunch article. I did what I did because I went through the whole race. I think what we all have always, and I've certainly fallen into this kind of idea, like, oh my God, I just need the article, that kind of thing. But by actively resisting it, by saying for our raise, we're not going to do the TechCrunch article for that kind of thing. It's always been about the longer term game.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're focused on the longer term game, you're going to focus on investing on things now that are going to pay off later.
Sure.
And that might mean, investing in learning from people, reading books, that kind of thing, that maybe don't provide you with immediate value, but you can reference down, later down the line. When I was first reading 0 to 1, I was not thinking about building a monopoly, right? That I was thinking of, how am I going to transfer the $10,000 I just raised on Kickstarter to a bank because I can't open a bank account because I'm 18. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Silicon Valley.
The Silicon Valley problem. Yeah.
Goes deposit the check.
Literally. So, those kind of things were my issues up front. But now I can, reference back, maybe not 0 to 1 specifically, but other, resources, conversations that I had, experiences, failures, and say, hey, put my finger and say, hey, we can use that now that we're here.
Mm-hmm.
So just, I guess, investing in the future, investing in yourself.
And then as much as you've changed, the product is also completely different now than what it was 3 years ago.
That's true.
How did that happen? Who helped you make that decision, or like those pivots? What is the product now?
Yeah, so when we first started, we started with a pet tag that had a QR code on the back. You could scan the QR code, and if someone lost your pet, they could see your pull up like a website, like a link tree with your information and that kind of thing. It was a good initial product. I think hardware fares really well on Kickstarter, and that helped us out. But the people who helped us make the decision on what to build is obviously our users. So when we first did the Kickstarter and we got a couple hundred people and we just started talking to them, and we said, okay, we're going to maybe add more software features. We're going to build up more things in the app and say, hey, now you can basically add your vaccinations and store them in the app and basically make this like one hub for all your pets' documents. And they talked to users a bit more, and we stumbled into a really cool distribution by partnering with animal shelters. And now we have a bunch of people who just got pets. And they're like, oh, cool, like the tag is cool, but I'm more concerned about like, what do I do rather than what do I do if my pet gets lost, right? That's not your immediate concern. So then now that kind of evolved into what we're doing today, which is very much kind of combining telehealth for pets, so 24/7 vet care, along with kind of personalized e-commerce. So you just get a dog from a shelter and you say, what do I do, right? I can go to Google, I can spend hours, the first 9 results are ads. I can ask my, family, friends, neighbors, husband, or whatever, who has a dog, and they might just get back to me. Like I can call them and bother them, or I can wait to see an in-person vet, which these days there's a massive shortage of. So instead, you could with Otto, we'll very much say, hey, you have a personal wellness expert. You can chat with them 24/7, or anyone on their team can get you answers. We'll connect you in 7 seconds. And then on top of that, this team of vets has a profile on your pet. They have your pet's age, breed, information, and they're going to curate, the best food, insurance, and so on. Our real vision here is to own like a stack for taking care of your pet, and kind of put that all through the Otto software.
That's interesting. And then, so you said a big part of where the pivot came from was your users.
Yeah, absolutely. I think talking to users it was a challenge for me. It still is a challenge for me.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of hard truths that the users have that maybe you just don't want to believe. But the sooner that you just accept, because obviously you don't have to listen to everyone, right? There's
going to ask, how do you filter that feedback?
Correct. So I think the biggest thing to look for is, well, it's an ever, I kind of saw a tweet about this a few days ago, but it's like a ever going on battle between trying to filter between, people who are actually productive and going to help you out, versus who are just shitting on your product because, whatever, they're depressed with their life. I don't know, it beats me. Yeah, I just don't understand. I think the biggest thing to look for is just in the way, this is a very simple thing to pick up on their demeanor and how they're delivering their feedback. If it's like, oh, I hate this thing, obviously that's pretty obvious. But when they're like, oh, could you let me know? Like, I will build this feature for you. And they're like, oh, just, I would love to kind of test that out when it comes out. Like those simple things, it's not something you can quantify, but you just kind of, it's a human to human thing.
Interesting. And at what point would you say you started taking the company seriously?
Would define what you mean by seriously.
From more so from like this could be something to okay, now it is a thing. Now we have to go through all the steps. Maybe that means restructuring how you think about the company. Maybe that means redefining roles. Maybe that means spending more time on it. Because I wouldn't imagine that when you started it in high school, it was like this is what I'm going to spend like the next 10 years of my life on.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the 10 years specifically, that was just as soon as we raised our first dollar. Like I think one thing I've tried to like put through the culture of our company is, the money is like, it doesn't grow on trees. So if you spend it accidentally and you put your ramp card for your DoorDash, like I'm going to refund that even if it was like $17 or something like that.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah. So I think, when we started taking investor money, that's when it said, okay, like we are committed to this thing, but we've never not been serious about building the thing. Ever since we raised that first dollar in Kickstarter, we've been very serious about, because people's pets are their livelihood these days, so we treat them as our own.
That's what I was gonna ask, like why the pet business to start, because it's very personal, right? And what's your motivation for that?
Yeah, I mean, everyone on the team is a pet owner, so I think we all just kind of understand that pets make us better people in general. So I think it was just, starting with the original QR tag. Maybe the pet industry wasn't like the first choice. Like we just came up with something. But you just fall in love with the industry as you talk to your, users, as you learn what their problems are, and you realize you have those own problems. And then of course, the cherry on top is designing the solutions to things that you have personally faced. And you can look at your parents and say, hey, my mom the other day, he just came back from the doctor or the vet. He had a surgery. And he's still down on the anesthesia. Like I was like, oh, dude, I built a thing to solve for this. Yeah, go ahead and chat with the vet, and it actually works really well. So I think that's just the personal ownership over it all.
I remember, I think it was you who told me. Wasn't there some stat that came out that people spend more on their dogs than on their children?
There is something like that. I know the average.
Or no, I think it's if you don't have kids, they're spending more on their pets than people are spending on their newborns. I think that's what it might be.
It's absurd. I think for people who own like doodles, like Labradoodles, Golden Doodles, they spend an average of $40,000 over the course of their pet's life on their pet.
Wow, that's a lot.
Which is a lot of money.
And average, what is that, like 10 years lifespan?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
That's a lot. And I guess even going back to you said since you raised your first dollar, you've taken it seriously. Raising is a very interesting thing, especially with you. So right now, we're in a very interesting time, I think, in humanity with AI. It feels like we're at the cutting edge, so to speak, right? There's GPT-3 just came out, and there's all of these advancements. And yet right now it's like you just raised, or not just raised, a few months ago you raised, can I say the number?
Yeah, sure.
So $1.6 million.
That round, yeah.
How did you do that? And, what was the motivation behind taking that much money?
Well, so before the raise, we went through the on-deck accelerator. So it was like very similar to YC 125 for 7. Incredible experience. I'm very, very disappointed that they had to kind of shutter that.
Yeah.
Because we had a great time. I think in that accelerator, we did a lot of clarification on the product and the roadmap ahead. And the amount was just determined by what are we going to need to make this happen, to run the experiments and to obviously play it safe. Especially, I think everyone at OnDeck, they're or at least our build advisors, very talented investors themselves. So they kind of understood, how the market was moving. Yeah. That there could be, kind of a recession coming up and how that would, impact the raising market as well. So they said, do it right now. Do a lot right now, because you don't know what it's going to look like for the next few years.
But you also, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but you also turned down $2 million. I remember we were going back from Berkeley that night. This was last year before you even got in. and we were going by this hour-long drive. You just randomly dropped the fact, oh yeah, I got an offer for $2 million, but we're turning it down. Why?
Yeah, that was, I think, with any investors, I don't know, it's like people call it like a marriage of sorts.
Sure.
Because your investors, like, you have to rely on them for so much. You have to rely on them for, your different, obviously your future fundraising rounds, hiring, product strategy, that kind of thing. I think we were at the point with the company where our firm that we ended up going with, Long Journey, was also kind of in a very interesting position where their fund is the amount of partners they have is very unproportionate to the amount of capital that they manage. And I think that means that they like to call themselves like a federation of angel investors, because that's actually what they are. They some of one of the partners, Cyan, is an incredible early stage investor, and Uber, Niantic, like all these amazing companies. And we wanted to kind of continue the level of personalization and personal guidance we had received from OnDeck into the firm that we chose. I'm happy to say that we still do get a lot of individualized attention from them. Our partner that we work with, Ariel, incredible. I can text her anytime. She gets back to me with a bunch of resources. Because building a company is already tough, but building a company when you're young, any advantage you can get is really helpful.
And so with the way the current state of the market right now, do you see yourself raising again anytime soon?
I think we're trying to put ourselves in a position, and one of my investors, Josh Browder from Do Not Pay.
I didn't realize he was an investor.
Yeah, he was pretty early, actually.
We're huge fans.
Yes,
of Josh.
He's amazing. And he we like to. His company, Do Not Pay, does an incredible job with kind of maximizing their profitability, not relying too much on the VC money, because VC money comes when you don't need it.
True.
So we're trying to get to a point where we're modeling what he's done, with his startup, and not rely on VC funding to get us to the next stage of things. So that means stretching every single dollar, thinking about before you spend every single penny, on just like maximizing growth, because we want to make sure we have a solid foundation. We don't know what the market is going to look like. No one can predict that.
Of course.
Can you give us any stories, VC stories that you've had, good or bad?
Josh is one of the most persistent investors. So we were waiting until I turned 18 to accept the check, so that way I could sign legally and all this stuff. Like I can own ownership in the company. And Josh texted me on my 18th birthday at like 2 a.m. I was like, "Can we close on this now?" Like,
oh, that's what the text was.
Yeah,
I saw that tweet.
Josh was like, yeah, that day in the morning, I put out a tweet. I was like, "Oh, today I'm like, does anyone have any advice for 18-year-olds?" And he like texted the tweet to me, and he's like, "Yo, can we close on this soon?"
That's funny. He seems like a no nonsense. I mean, we watched him do that. Corey's event, and he just seems like a no nonsense, right? Straight to the point.
Straight to the point. Call him at 2 a.m. He'll pick up. 5-minute call. He'll give you everything you need.
Really?
So, yeah, incredible.
Wow.
But yeah, no, I'm very, very happy with kind of the investors. We kind of put them together like an Avengers team. So we listed out, what we had heard on the street about investors, like weaknesses and what they're good at.
Yeah.
And then kind of curated together a really great group that's helping us in all different ways.
When did you turn 18 again?
February this year.
Yeah. So there was a house in the summer.
Oh yes.
It was cursed.
Why? Why was it cursed?
I really enjoyed the house. It was awesome. It was a bit cursed with we had a puppy living in the house.
Okay, so let me tell you, that was the most jarring experience.
Go for it.
Do you want to give the context to what the house was though?
Yeah, so over the summer we rented out like a 7 bedroom house in the Mission in San Francisco, and I hosted some of the members of our team, as well as a bunch of just young hackers, builders, founders, kind of all living under one roof. So even if you crash in SF for a few days, our couch was open, and we wouldn't charge anything, so you could just drop by.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I think it was just Omar will tell you something different, but
Omar's waiting to say something.
I can see him.
Let me tell you. So there was 2 sides to the house. There was the house, and then there was the group chat.
Oh yes, the group chat.
Both
but the group chat was in only members of the house?
People who had stayed in the house.
If you had stayed at least one night in the house, we would put you in the group chat.
So there was this one night I showed up to their house, and I think I took over Arnav's room, right? He was in Hawaii or something.
Yeah, he was on vacation.
And so it's pretty chill. Like I go in, it's just like a bunch of like 16, 17-year-old dudes. I was like, okay, this is something's going wrong this summer, but this is fun.
Yeah.
And we stay up to like 12-1. It's not too late. I go to sleep. And there's some commotion when I'm going to sleep. I don't really fully understand what it is. I wake up the next morning and there's a dog in the house.
But there was no dog before?
No.
Okay.
Is that? Oh yeah, the next day, yeah.
The next day, I woke up kind of late.
So you wake up, there's just a dog in the house?
And not only is there a dog in the house, there is a dog in the house that is peeing all over the floor.
Okay.
On the couch. They don't know how to take care of her.
On the couch?
It was on the couch, right? Or like right next to the couch? The hallway. It was everywhere.
Wherever.
It was everywhere. Everyone was like freaking out. Karan had to go to the WeWork. Like it was just, I was like, okay.
Karan's like, I'm out. Like I have real work to do.
He had work, right? And so I'm like, okay, this is the part where I leave. It was great seeing all of you. I'm gonna like, slow down on the last day. I was gonna say 2 nights. I stayed 1. But that house was cursed, dude. The texts I would get in that group chat, it was like 2 a.m. And I'm like, I don't know if Karan's gonna be alive tomorrow from the stuff I would see on that group chat. But we're happy you made it through.
Yeah. No. Puppies are a lot of work, and that's why we're building a product to help make sure.
So
more
just
nightmares.
a test. It was tested.
It was dog fooding our product.
Dog fooding your product.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Nice. Yeah.
Going off again, I want to mention Chewy because I've been waiting to talk to you about Chewy, but I'm a huge fan of the brand from their customer service perspective, and I feel like the pet space, that's so competitive, so many players. Something as simple as sending flowers after your pet has died, happy birthday cards, offering refunds, just always being there, that personal touch. I feel like that's such a simple concept, but it was so foreign to brands like PetSmart, Pets.com, whatever it may be. Can you talk a little bit about how, Otto, you're looking at customer service and anything you take away from other brands that you respect in this space?
Yeah, so glad that you brought up Chewy because I think they are the gold standard for customer care, in any industry, not just the pet one. I think we obviously, as an early stage startup, we only have so many resources, but we do always, try to think of our. We don't even call our users because user sounds like they're doing drugs or something. I don't know. My psychedelics course was today.
You go to class?
1 class in the morning, 9 to 10. Good discussion. We call them our customers, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, we aren't at a volume where we're dealing with so many customer inquiries every day, and we try to build a product that doesn't require people to contact customer service when they need help.
Yeah.
But yeah, I from time to time I used to do all of them myself with the support emails and that kind of thing. Now I do a few a week and that kind of thing, especially when it's like a confusing thing. I'll walk them through. There were times way early on in the company where we had a few older, elderly people had backed us on Kickstarter and they got this QR tag and they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
There's a lady who lived like a few blocks down the street. So we'd literally get on like the FaceTime with them and walk them through how to set it up, and just the same way that, Stripe did in the early days where they would go and set things up. I think it just teaches you a lot about how people use your product and perceive it. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything more to say than, Chewy does a great job. We're always looking to, compete with them on that standard.
I feel like we've talked about Chewy so much, and it's always, I don't know if it's about customer service though.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Like every time we've talked about Chewy, it's always been actually, no, you're right. It is. I don't know if it's about customer service as much as it is about experience, like knowing the little things about them and about users / customers.
It's interesting for me because again, going back to a lot of failures in the .com era in this pet business in terms of brick and mortar, pet food supplies. There's just been so many abject disasters.
True. And
it's a very personal business. It seems like what Chewy did should have or could have been done by really anybody that had a user base. But I guess it just goes neglected in terms of caring about your users and building. I mean, you could talk about with Otto as far as like building the ecosystem. But it's like, is that something you just need to come in with where maybe you're too disconnected as a C-suite leadership team where you're not looking at things like that? Or do you actually have to personally care about pets and your users? Like, is that the secret? Like, what do you think it is?
Well, the biggest thing is don't let VC money go to your head. And that's what happened with pets.com and all those others, during the 2000s. But yeah, I mean, I honestly don't see it as just being a nice person, right?
Yeah.
Being a nice person builds a nice culture, builds a nice company, which builds a nice experience for your users. And with pets, like you've kind of mentioned, being very personal with the way you handle customer support requests, the way that you treat your customers, it shouldn't even be a differentiator. It should just be like the baseline, the floor. Unfortunately, I guess fortunate for us as a company, but unfortunately across the industry, people just need to realize that there is no longer a concept of a pet owner, but it's more of a pet parent. And that's reflective in the spending, the characteristics of, the users and the customers. And if you start treating these people like their pets are their kids, then you're going to see a massive shift, because that's what they want. They want that personalization. They want that level of care and understanding. And that's going to, separate future.com booms, pets.coms, from companies like Chewy and hopefully Otto.
What's interesting, or to me at least, one of the more interesting things about Otto is the distribution. So I'm curious. I want you to tell the story about that, but also, what is a user's or customer's first touch point with the product?
Yeah, so I guess that kind of ties together with the distribution. So as Omar mentioned, the really cool thing that we have is these tie-ups with animal shelters, that every time you adopt a pet from an animal shelter, you're basically going to get pitched Otto on the spot and asked to download the app on your phone.
By someone at the shelter.
Someone at the shelter, someone who works at the shelter. And the way we initially stumbled in this was actually with the QR tag. There's a shelter local to us in Palo Alto that said, hey, the QR tag is super cool. We could use it for our foster program. Like, you can reprogram the tag's owner. So if someone shifted to foster owner or something like that, you could reprogram it. But then they realized, why don't we do this for adoptions too? And now all of a sudden, if you go and adopt a dog, it comes with a tag on its collar already. And that tag requires you to download the app to get started on that. And we said, wow, it costs us 80 cents to make that tag, and we're getting a user every time we do that, which is a phenomenal CAC, especially in the pet industry. And we kind of ran with that with the QR tag for a while, expanded to a few shelters. But when we started phasing the QR tag out and more of the software in, that cut the CAC to literally the cost of the brochure, which is like a couple cents, right?
Yeah.
And what's your LTV?
For a user?
Yeah.
So I mean, we charge a couple $100 ish for a year.
Okay.
And if you assume that, 10, 15 years for their pet, that's like not, $1,500 on the subscription alone, not counting all the additional things that, the e-commerce things that they might have expenditures on. Our whole goal is every dollar you spend on your pet should come through Otto. That's like the ultimate.
The food too, like even the recreational.
The food, every single thing, because you trust us to tell us, when you're chatting with our vets, whether that rash is, skin cancer or not. Trust us to recommend the food. Trust us to recommend the insurance. All of these different things. We want to own that entire stack. So you can see how the CAC to LTV thing is quite brilliant. But yeah, now we're in some of the largest shelters in the country. We fly down to them every time we launch a new one. So I was supposed to be in Las Vegas yesterday.
You're always somewhere.
Yeah,
always somewhere.
We'll be in Las Vegas next week.
Wow, sweet.
And then I was in Nashville, Florida, like every single place. We almost have a shelter now.
So one thing that was always interesting to me is like, you go on Snapchat. I don't use it as much anymore, but I would go back and I would have my friends, like, I'm on their private stories, right?
Yeah.
It's a picture of someone's like food, a picture of someone's friend, and then Karan, a random state, the most random, Wisconsin. Just like Wisconsin. Him on a flight. Just Wisconsin, Nebraska. I'm like, why are you there of all the places? He's like, oh, you're in a pet shelter. I'm like, okay, fine. What's it like now? Have you been to every state? Are you almost
close? I don't count, but I think I'm in the 40s.
Okay, what's that like? What's it like compared to California?
And Nebraska is, oh my goodness. There's literally nothing there.
Shout out Lincoln, Nebraska. By the way, I love Nebraska. I've been to every state.
You've been to every state.
Every state. Yeah.
Okay.
I got to get up to that.
Yeah. What's your favorite state that people wouldn't think is a great place? Like that you got there and you were like, oh, this was actually a pretty cool experience.
Maybe Wisconsin. I like Milwaukee.
Really?
I like Milwaukee.
Milwaukee's awesome.
Milwaukee's nice.
What's so good about Milwaukee?
So when I went to Milwaukee, it's kind of like a smaller version of SF, but
really?
In terms of like obviously the downtown and that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But there are just so many nice views of just empty grassy areas and that kind of thing. Or at least when I went to Milwaukee, there's like this massive, massive park, and you can see like the entire downtown.
So
and that
you went to Deer District, downtown.
Beats me. I'm not from Milwaukee.
Where there's the brewery and you can kind of go on the high rises.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is great. I like Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Would you ever, after you're let's just say done with the startup thing, it's gonna happen at some point, would you stay in SF? Would you stay in the Bay Area?
No.
Where would you go?
I'd probably go to Switzerland, bro.
Switzerland?
I love Switzerland.
Okay.
What about you, Vishal?
Well, I'm not from here like you guys.
True. You've been here for less than... It's still crazy to me you've been here for less than a year.
So I think it's different when you go... Because I grew up in New York, so...
True.
I think the cultural differences are a lot.
Are you going back to New York after you're done or not?
Well, I can always go back.
Do you want to go back?
No, it's a fun city to travel into.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like come out of.
Yeah.
I don't know, living there is all that great.
Would you stay in the United States?
Yeah, I can't leave the U.S.
Okay.
No way.
Okay.
But it's like I've been everywhere. I don't think there's any place. It depends what you get used to as an American, because it's really frustrating. Certain things we take for granted here, that
Like
in
what?
space for one. Have you been to Europe? Everything is tiny. The portions are tiny. Everything's expensive. It's harder to find. When I was in France in Cannes, it's harder to find water than it is rosé, like in wine.
Interesting.
Like it's harder to get water, like clean water. It's a little perspective for you.
So you're gonna stay in Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska. We're gonna see Vishal Snapchat stories in 50 years. Like
That's gonna be a tough place.
look
to
at this
live.
cow. Highlight of my day.
I don't know. I'm gonna go to wherever his like best shelter is and just work out of his shelter.
Yeah. Head on over to Pennsylvania.
What's the biggest shelter?
The one in Pennsylvania.
Really?
Yeah. It's Brandywine Valley, SPCA. They do a great job.
And everyone gets a tag?
So we no longer do the tag, but you are basically you get the brochure and they get you to install the app there at the shelter.
And then are you tracking like usage? Because let's say I install it. Is there like specific things you look for very early on that shows, okay, this is going to be a good return?
Yeah, so it's definitely in the usage. So we for anyone who adopts from the shelter, we provide like 2 weeks of access to the 24/7 chat and that kind of thing for completely free. And obviously, if people are using that, if they're engaging with it, they're asking questions and they're deriving value from it, that typically obviously leads to higher conversion rates on that end.
I kind of already I know part of the answer, but between flying so much and being in WeWorks until 4 a.m., how do you balance social? Or like, how do you just not go insane?
Not go insane? Who said I'm not? It's not that tough. But you fly. Like investing in relationships is definitely almost like a part-time job. But there's no reason you can't loop people into the things that you're doing and make experiences while you're doing work, right?
Mm-hmm.
The simple texting your friend, hey, you want to co-work this week? Or do you want to come down to the WeWork?
I wish people did that more, especially at our school.
It's absolutely like an invest because you have to go through your contact list. Every Sunday, go through the contact list. Who have I not talked with in a bit? FaceTime them, call them, text them, do something like that. Because if you don't do that, then, first you lose kind of control over all your social life and your relationships and that kind of thing. But second, like no one really wants to, I've had friends do this to me and it's like the greatest feeling in the world, right?
True.
And you give that to someone else. That's probably, the best thing you can do to maintain that relationship.
Do you still use Dex? Or
No,
is
I
it
don't.
called Dex?
No, I don't.
What was it like using? Because, okay, for reference,
Desk?
it's a personal CRM. Is
That's
that what it's
correct.
called?
Yeah,
So like
PR.
you can see, what is it? You can see all the people in your contact list. You can give them tags. You can see the last time you
Yeah.
checked up on them.
Okay.
And what was it like using that?
I use it for a bit. It's just there's a lot of friction to maintain them, and I feel like it turns organic relationships transactional. Your friends, you have relationships with people for different reasons, right? You have relationships with people for just the company things, future recruits, the general friends, all those different
Yeah.
things. And with the Dex, I mean, why would I add, the person like from 4th grade into Dex and
True.
track when those kind of things, right? I think it's a good thing for people who have jobs that literally require like your only job is networking your way around.
Yeah.
But if people are important, I remember them. That's it.
We need Be Real for your contacts. Like Be Real meets Find My Friends.
Yeah.
Do
It's like-
people is like everyone in college using Be Real?
Yeah, my friend, I'm like once a day, someone.
Do you think it's like a Snapchat level company?
I don't know. I don't use it, but I people like it. Like that's all. Like every single day, it's sticky. It's very
It's
sticky.
sticky.
It's like Snapchat had streaks. Their whole app for Be Real is just like the concept of streaks. The once a day, you post your Be Real. And one thing that I've actually found funny is last year specifically, my friends would do so much for those Be Reals. Like they would prep it. Like they'd have like there was one where they were pretending that they were getting kidnapped.
What?
Like they had a sack over the guy's head and they had tied up his entire like his entire like his wrist behind his feet behind.
What's the incentive for that? Just to
What's the incentive for
different?
Snapchat? I don't know. It's just.
But
keep in
Snapchat,
touch,
you're like
it's fine.
sharing memories. Like this isn't that. This is manufacturing things.
True. I mean, do you think Be Real is going to be around?
Well, I don't use it. Do you guys use it? I thought you guys used it.
I don't use it either.
You
no.
don't use it.
I'm off Snapchat now too. So
Yeah, Snapchat.
Are you totally off social media?
I'm on Instagram. I like Instagram. I only have like 200 followers, so I keep it very.
That's nice. Yeah.
What's your main usage for social media?
It's honestly just like another way of keeping in touch, with people maybe you aren't in contacts with. But like I post on my story pretty frequently. I kind of treat Instagram the way it's like treated back when it first came out, where people just post stuff about random things. Like when I build a Lego set, I post about it.
Okay.
Lego
set engineers, right?
Engineer.
Loves that.
Love Legos. Oh my goodness.
Adam came on the podcast not last week, but the week before, and we were talking about how he thinks that Legos are like the gateway drug to becoming an engineer.
Yeah, like kind of the building block, no pun intended.
Legos are awesome.
Yeah.
Makes sense why you're a good engineer. Or as Omar says, you were really bad and then you became.
No, I said he's always been a good engineer. It was a bad designer.
It was a
bad design. Bad design.
Can't do everything.
Semantics.
Can't do everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you do any B or direct to consumer marketing with Otto?
Not yet. It's something we'd like to start exploring. It's just trying to keep up with the demand from the shelters itself is crushing us. So we'd start maybe exploring that in a few, quarter or two.
Have you ever thought about doing post notifications?
Post notifications for
like cursed ones for Otto.
Oh, like push notifications?
Yeah.
The ones that KO is doing an incredible job with?
That's what we're gonna.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's just you'll see like, your normal, your DoorDash is here.
Yeah.
Or like your Uber is 5 minutes away. I don't know. Like I turn off most notifications on my phone. But then I'll see KO. It's like, you're a horrible person. I hope like you're bad at life. This is why your life's falling together. Get your stuff together. And I don't know. I just see
it motivates you to work out, right? That's the whole point. Or does it just make you sad? I don't know.
Well, it makes me take a screenshot and post it on Twitter. So I guess it works for them.
It really conflicted with you. Huh?
Yeah, no, it was rough, man. I was having a good day. I opened the app and I just see like, this is why your life is falling apart. You need to work out more.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, okay then. What do you do? You use KO?
Your thoughts?
I'm about to. I gotta get on that. I think it's clearly getting people to share their app. Omar being a living example here. I think for our users, they don't personally know us, most of them.
True.
That get on it, and they expect like a certain level of like consistency. I wish I could, to be honest. I super wish. Sometimes, so we have a way that we can segment users, and we can segment the kind of people we're sending push notifications to. So I sometimes set like Arnav's name and I just like send him a push notification, so, like that kind of thing. But yeah, I think the professionalism has always just been one thing that we try to keep at the company.
Have you ever found yourself wanting to do something more consumer related or build a side project or even do something with AI because of how much it's popping recently?
Yeah, so I mean, there have been times early in the company. Arnav and I, for a hackathon, we did a hackathon. This is way early in the company, a year and a half or something ago. And we built I think it was basically when we were trying to read the contracts for Otto, when we were signing with shelters, like we didn't know what the fuck we were reading. It's a legal language. It's just so
jarring.
Yeah. And it costs so much money to get it translated. So you like use GPT-3. There's like a feature that's like, read it like a second grader or something like that.
Interesting.
And then we just like would basically take Shazam or something like that, like Genius, where how Genius they look at the song lyrics.
Oh yeah.
So you'd hover over a section of a legal document and it would just translate it next to you.
That's cool.
I mean, Arnav and I have built a few side projects. There was like that college admissions one. I don't know if I told you about that.
Which one?
Where we were both applying to college and we had to make profile. Like, so we couldn't judge. The school gives you the software that shows you people's ACT score and their GPA.
Oh, wow.
And they'll show you which colleges they got into. So it's like there's a bunch of check marks and you can see the graph. But that doesn't obviously tell you the full picture of the game, right?
Yeah.
With the extracurriculars and that kind of thing. But there's also this Reddit called College Admissions that people basically post their profiles and which colleges they got into and which they didn't get into. So we're like, oh my God, there's like a whole data, like a gold mine here, but no one can sort through it because it's just like Reddit. So we built an interface for it, charge people like $10 a month to filter through based on other extra, you can see people's like extracurriculars, which colleges they got in, when they applied, that kind of thing. Sold that for a couple $1,000s on, and then use that money to buy like the initial tag orders for shelters at Otto.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how you funded your initial
for the shelter program. Yeah, I think something like that.
That's dope, actually.
Huh. And then long term, would you like partner with Chewy and have their products specifically go to your customers at some sort of wholesale price, or like you mentioned, right? Like that's kind of it's a closed loop. You want all pet decisions coming through the app.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, the pets, pet space is very competitive, especially across like Chewy, PetSmart, Petco, and that kind of thing. They are always competing on acquiring new customers because once you acquire a customer and they buy something through Chewy, that's mostly where they're buying most of their stuff.
Yeah.
But if you don't get them, having them to switch over from like PetSmart or going in person is very difficult. So that's the idea that we take affiliates and then maybe in the future start in-housing a lot of components of that.
Okay.
So we in-house the like insurance. We build our own insurance brand, or we build our own training. I don't know, we build all these different aspects to taking care of a pet.
Yeah.
And we really want to we use an analogy like Amazon Prime for pet parenthood.
Ooh, that Amazon Prime for pet parents. That's good.
So
Did you trademark that?
Not yet.
Can you
I think Amazon would have a bit of a problem.
Eric, can you trademark that real quick, and then we can sell it to him when he needs it?
Oh yeah, by the way, we got Eric in the podcast studio for the first
Shout out,
time.
Eric.
He's the person behind all of our absolute massive of clips that get posted. Quick shout out to Eric. But what's interesting to me is your whole team. I think I'm friends with most of them at this point. I've met all of them.
Yeah.
They're all under 20. Wow.
Yes.
How does that work?
That beats me, bro. Honestly, yeah.
Well, it works by bringing a dog and it randomly shitting all over your place. That's how it works.
That's
right?
that's the work process.
Well, work gets done though, right?
Work does get done.
Work does get done.
Work does get done. A lot of young companies run their startups like frats, where it's like do whatever you want. I think the biggest thing we do is we just look at every single thing, like what people, how people run a company.
Mm-hmm.
And then we, especially at our age, and we say like, why are you doing that? And we just like question it immediately. Like,
what are some examples?
Where people are like, oh, you need to, people are like, oh, you need to hire a bunch of interns like immediately, right? Or there's a lot of people ask people to intern. They're like, why? Like, this is kind of a general thing that I think me and Arnaud do is someone says something or they suggest something and we immediately think the opposite. And we start considering what it would be like if we did the opposite of what you said, which is kind of like, it's kind of a bitch move sometimes. And there's times where we're often wrong and what you're saying is correct. But I think in order to make companies work at a young age, you just need to question every single thing and re-engineer what it means to run a company from the bottom up.
What's the worst advice you've ever gotten as a younger founder?
Oh my God. So there's one time before we got into On Deck, we were also trying to raise money. We had no clue what we were doing. So we're going into clubhouses and stuff like that and trying to figure out, like, talk to these VCs who we thought were so cool and that kind of thing. This is a dude, we get on a call with him and he's, we're explaining it and he's like, can you do all of this but on the blockchain? Because I'll invest.
Wait, we've done this on other pods.
Everything goes on the blockchain.
His whole shtick is, can you just put this on the blockchain?
Can you put it on the blockchain? I will angel invest tomorrow.
Yeah, it was. And at this point,
we thought it was a joke. We didn't know people were actually. So there are VCs actually saying
serious. Well, he wouldn't even consider it like a family firm, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they call themselves VCs for sure.
So that's what he said. He said everything else is fine.
He said, could you put this on the blockchain?
What did you say?
So this was back before, like, this was quite a while before the whole crypto hype caught on.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
So people still knew about the blockchain, but I wasn't immersed in like that technology, and I knew like barely how it worked.
Yeah.
Arnav didn't really know much about how it worked because he's always been like AI as his interest. So then I'm like texting, because we always text on the Zoom thing next to the private message, and we're like, what is he even talking about? Like, how would we even do this on the blockchain? You think he was like saying we should create pets on a blockchain? And so, but the whole point is you can update your information, not that you like that's
Like the tag, like
the tag. So you can create you link the tag to like part of the
that way. No one can hack your dog and change its name.
But I was confused
because
I was like,
what would the use be? Yeah. What's the
whole point is you can update your info. You can change your phone number in case you change your phone number, and someone can. I was like confused. So I just said, sure, yeah, we could do that.
We can do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'll take the check.
Yeah, but thank God we didn't take his money, because I would not be sitting here if that was the case.
Probably. Yeah. And then to go the complete opposite way, what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
In general, for running the company?
As a younger founder, specifically.
Ooh, okay. So I think one of the best advice, I don't know if it's like the singular best piece, because I've got amazing advice from a lot of people, is from young founder called from Vise AI. So the CEO of Vise AI, Samir. So I did a phone call with him once, and he was like, I think he really hammered in this idea that don't hit the local maximum and think, or don't hit your local maximum and think it's the absolute ceiling. And he gave this example about how he thinks in 10-year cycles. So he sits down and says, where do I want to be in 10 years?
Mhm.
And then works back from that. And that way, when he gets on some cool podcast or something like that, and he gets, sends the link to his parents or something like that, he doesn't think that I've done it. Like, I've checked all the boxes. I'm complete. He doesn't default back into the game mindset where I've gotten to the good college. I'm good to go. And instead, he always looks at that, thing in the morning and says, hey, like, this is my 10-year goal, and we're going to keep working towards there. And then think of your 10 years. What is your 20 years? What is your 40 years? All those different things. And obviously, as a young person, thinking that far out is difficult. But even saying the next 5 years, what do I want to do? I think that really changes your perspective around how you live your day to day. And you realize, like, look, sure, I didn't do anything. It's like the whole graphics and things like that, where it's like, don't one dip, look how far you've come, but then also look how far you still have to go.
Give me a big failure or key learning you had throughout the Otto journey where you were like, okay, maybe we have to pivot something, or okay, we totally bombed this and we need to fix this.
Yeah, so I think early on when we started the shelter thing, and my co-founder put this really great the other day. He said, we were always looking for a silver bullet, that I would wake up overnight and I would have partnered with the biggest shelter, and now I would have 100,000 users or 100,000 customers on the product. You always see, especially in like consumer social, like that's what happens, right? Your Be Real just grows instantly overnight. I think Nikita's doing a great job with like gas and that kind of thing. But that's not how robust products are actually built, right? And you actually do have to invest a lot of time in. And this is something, we work on every single day, investing time into talking to the users that you don't know what's best, and you just need to go and figure out, and you lose your ego, and really get down on knee level with everyone that's actually making use of the thing that you created. So I think the biggest mistake was when we first initially started, and maybe it's kind of a recurring thing that we keep experiencing. You have to put in the hard work. There's no way around it.
That's interesting. And then on this note of basic podcast questions, since that's what we're asking right now, so you're the reason I've actually read a lot of books, and you've always had very good picks. Like I think 0 to 1 Build was.
I didn't know he was the one that gave you 0 to 1.
I didn't know that either. I just forgot.
I mean, it was So it's there's been a lot. Like Build, I think was one of the most interesting books I've probably read in the last like 3 to 5 to 6 months. What is like the absolute the number one book that you would recommend people read?
I really like this book that doesn't have anything to do with startups. It is like my favorite non-startup book, called When Breath Becomes Air. And I think it's a very emotional book. I don't tear up often, I don't cry often, but had me, the tears going towards the end. It's a actual true story about, I think he's some sort of surgeon, who gets cancer or like a brain tumor or something like that. And he understands exactly what's happening to him. So he starts writing this book as he's dying. And, it's like a really good reflection of everything that what life is, and, what makes it so magical, and what how to ignore things. And I think it's really, embodies the if it was your last day, what would you do into a whole book. And, it's a very emotional one. Like the book ends off like I believe mid-sentence, because he just like, passed away while he was finishing it up.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a heavy read, but I really do enjoy it, and I actually recommend it. I give my copy out, multiple copies I have now, because I always be giving them out to everyone.
Well, I got some startups I want to pitch, if you'll let me. So these are pet related.
Sure.
You can buy these in the room, or you can just pass, depending on what I say.
He's telling you to invest.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so the first one, pet owners. A lot of times, maybe you forget you feed the pet, or you just leave the food around. Pet eats it, doesn't get much exercise. It's getting fat, right? It's getting overweight. It's getting out of shape. Let's put a buzzer, some sort of thing you can just stick to your arm, something like that, where the owner gets zapped if the pet's overeating. Not the pet. Everyone was.
I thought it was going a completely different direction. I was
everyone was like,
please continue. No,
we're gonna shock the pet, right? That's what everyone. No. This is the owner's fault. The pet's not the problem. It's just right. It's just being a Dogs being a dog, cats being a cat. It's how viable is that? Is there a market for that?
Amazon Prime for pets.
With the zap.
Yeah. Because you have to be accountable. There's got to be something you have to be punished in some way for making your pet fat. I just don't like seeing fat pets because it's unhealthy and they have no control. It's not their fault.
No, he's right. He's right. He's absolutely right.
It's like, and they have a lot of health issues that come with that. Right? And it's like, I don't think shocking them makes any sense.
Agreed.
Legally.
Legally.
I could see it. I'd invest.
I think that might be the first time someone's actually meant it.
That was the only, yeah. Wow.
No, because look, there was a time where my dog Teddy was overweight because my mom and dad would just, whatever. Like, he looks at them and he's like, oh, whatever you eat, just give it to me. Yeah. And I'd put the shocker on my brother because even, it's not his fault, but he's my brother.
Yeah.
So you just want to shock him. Yeah. He's my brother. It's not really his fault. I just want him to feel pain.
But yeah, no, certainly.
Because it's a hard problem. I feel like that's a real problem for owners. We had a cat in college. One of our roommates had a cat. None of us would remember when we fed the thing.
Oh, no.
So it would get like 4 servings a day. It got really fat. Dude's fat now. He was healthy, athletic. Dude's just fat now, mopes around. Just look at him and be like, look at you, you're disgusting. Like,
you can't be saying this, bro.
No.
You used to be somebody. He used to be somebody.
He looks like a cat ate a cat. You know?
This is gonna get clipped out of context, and it's a wrap for us.
Yeah, but I just had to turn.
How much are you investing? What's the valuation?
Whatever he wants. I'm all in on this one.
And he didn't even tell me to put it on a blockchain.
Oh no, that's part in the term. That's the small print.
But then, okay, so going off that, overweight pets.
Sure.
I've heard that there are gyms for pets to work out. Is that true?
What do they have? Mini barbells? How does a pet work?
Have you heard of this?
I have not, actually. No, I've not.
So producer Jacob said there are gyms that exist, remember? Maybe there aren't.
What is it, like a treadmill? Don't they not walk anywhere?
They do they do have treadmills specifically made for pets, yeah.
How do they keep them on the treadmill?
It's not, well, so you're like strapped in. And there's no power to the treadmill. So it's like literally like I don't know what you would call it, like a conveyor belt, I guess.
Yeah.
Where you're just like running on it. And the dog runs faster, obviously the treadmill's going to keep going.
Yeah.
And the dog's like, very smart, so it just keeps doing that.
But we have like spas, right? Like pet spas.
Yeah.
We have daycares or like you travel.
Sure, yeah, no, there's absolutely that, yeah.
Why isn't there boot camps?
Boot camps.
Yeah, why isn't there boot camps? Like
we need berries for dogs.
Like we need to change this pet, like the dog whisperer, like that. But it's like we're gonna bring him in 2-3 weeks, get him on the right regimen, diet, nutrition, mindset.
So here's the problem. If I invest in both,
you like
Zap.
this one too?
No, but if I invest in the Zap, that's taken away from the market for the gym.
Yeah, but the Zap isn't really. The Zap is more accountability. We still have to fix the pet's health, right? At the end of the day.
Well, so so you're saying like, okay, you have like a normal sized pet. They're not fat.
Yeah.
But how do we get them buff?
Yeah,
Okay,
there you go.
I see,
Now you're thinking.
I see it.
Because buff, those like pit bulls and those dogs.
It's crazy. Oh, oh my goodness.
That looks insane. That looks like I want my dog to have abs.
That dog takes you for a walk, right?
That dog. That's gonna be good Otto merch. That dog takes you for a walk.
The dog that takes you.
But it's like, is there a market for that? Like,
I'm sure if you could add the metaverse somewhere in there.
It's a VR headset for your dog.
Oculus headsets? VR
For pets?
headsets?
A VR headset for your dog.
Expanding the TAM.
Man, I knew these were good ideas.
See, at this point, I'm just scared there's going to be someone who takes you seriously, and then you're just going to leave the podcast to work on it.
I don't know. The Zapper one he liked. The Zapper
I think Y Combinator would like that one too.
Ooh, that's a YC idea. I know how you feel about it.
Well,
he's laughing.
He knows. Yeah.
Did you see the picture I posted on my story on Instagram?
I haven't.
Someone at Cal Hacks
What did they do?
took we brought some auto merch to Cal Hacks, so I think someone got auto merch. They went and took a picture next to Michael from YC, who's a guest speaker.
That's actually kind of solid.
There we go. That's what we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah, the merch is a good play. We should do podcast merch, dude.
We need merch at some point,
dude.
Yeah,
that would be sick.
Maybe a collab. Ooh,
you can put my face on the back of your merch.
Ooh,
he takes dogs for walks on the front. Yeah.
But I have one more thing.
Oh, there's more.
It's not a startup idea. I just wanted to read this.
Okay.
So it's from your Twitter.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Oh Jesus.
It's not bad. It's just it made me contemplate life.
Okay. Here we go.
Let's do this. This is starting off. One time I ate a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but I accidentally poured in spoiled milk. It tasted really bad.
Okay.
Now, whenever I eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch, I get a sour taste in my mouth, even with normal milk. There's a life lesson in there somewhere. There is, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I love Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and this sounds horrible.
It's like,
I got over it. When
How'd
was
you
this
get
tweet?
over it?
2020?
Yeah.
Yeah.
December 20, I think, yeah.
Took about a year, so I got over it, though.
What's the life lesson?
Don't buy spoiled milk, probably.
There's got to be something bigger than that.
It's like bad experiences leave a bad taste in your mouth. By the way, this is not about Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
But I think it's more like, even in an accident sometimes, it changes your mindset. You need to be strong. I don't know. I'm losing it there.
No.
Do you like Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Oh, I do love it now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
you love it?
Absolutely.
So you hated it?
For a year.
The spoiled milk really changed his mind on it.
Have you had spoiled milk?
Have I had spoiled milk?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, once my freshman year, we were still learning how to adult, and we were living alone. So my roommate and I, we had 2 bottles. We had 2 of those
Wait, so you never went to the dining hall?
No, I did with my friends. They would swipe me in.
Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah. But we had so we lived in an apartment, which meant we didn't have access to the dining halls.
Okay.
And so we had to bring our own food. We just ate out a lot too. But we had these 2 cartons of milk. One of them was expired. One of them wasn't. I don't know why we didn't throw it out. And my roommate smells it. He's like, "Bro, is this spoiled?" Puts the jug.
Yeah.
He's like, "You really have to smell it to smell it, though. I don't think it's that spoiled." I don't know why I listened to him. So I smell it. And I instantly rush to the sink, and I'm about to start throwing up how bad it was.
And you ate cereal with it.
True.
Yeah.
How much did you eat the bowl?
He took one, so he's like, "This is kind of different, but I like it."
He's like, "It tasted really bad."
I had a few.
You had multiple?
I mean, come on, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Spoiled milk, dude.
No, the milk goes in after, so it goes to the bottom, right? So
So
I don't think you understand how milk works, dude.
You're a cereal first guy and then the milk?
Yeah.
People debate that. Is that
Wait, are you cereal first?
Cereal first,
Okay,
of course.
Good. Okay.
Who does milk for Eric? What are you? Cereal first,
Okay,
right?
good. For a second, I was worried we were gonna have to find a new.
Yeah, who does the milk first?
No, so I had
understand.
this one friend, no longer a friend, because
Wait,
they did milk first.
Was that the cause? That argument was that the cause?
He saw that, he was like,
I can't be friends with wackos.
Yeah, no, that was too much for me.
Did you put your socks on before your
he was like, if it was spoiled, it'd be fine. Like that works because I do that. But
not before. Like the order is important.
The order is
important. Yeah.
See, this is a great time to end the episode. Normally, Vishal's the one who cuts it off, but today I'm reaching my limit here,
It's a
dude.
great life lesson. Someone learned something.
Was that you, Karan? Did you learn something?
I've not had spoiled milk since then. So yes.
That's super important. Right? And he enjoys Cinnamon Toast Crunch now. There was a time he didn't enjoy it, and it was probably a really tough time in his life.
God, it was depressing.
It was depressing.
Yeah.
So we just cured depression.
Okay, Karan, where can people find you?
Find me? Oh, you can visit my website.
Oh my god, I'm gonna put a screenshot. Eric, can we put like a little screenshot? Okay, great. Thanks everyone. Which camera? I just so many episodes still don't
go to the wide.
Not that one. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for listening / watching this episode. I've been getting a lot of really good feedback on Twitter and DMs, messages, and it feels good. It's been great. Thanks everyone again for listening. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do, and we will see you.
Tell us how you feel about the sunglasses.
Oh yeah, do we bring these back every week?
Should we keep doing this even when Omar doesn't have a concussion?
Just give Omar another concussion.
Oh, that's all right. All right, that was the lesson. But yes, before this gets any worse, we will see you next week. Peace.